Welcome to Evolve Science classes. Today we are going to have a specific look to the chapter The Fundamental Unit of Life, that is the cell. So here in the given picture, the first picture, I'm talking of this picture, we find that an organism is made up of cells. Firstly, the smaller part of the cells are the atoms. Then these atoms form into spiral forms, giving structure to the cells. These are the muscle cells which are spindle shaped. Then these muscle cells join together form the tissues, and from the tissues we get an organ. Here the organ given is heart, and this organ is now fit into the organism with the circulatory system. Like this, every organism has different systems in the entire body which is made up of cells. Earlier, the organisms were either unicellular or multicellular. Even now also we find unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. For multicellular organisms, they are specially plants and animals. Unicellular organisms, there are many like Chlamydomonas, Paramecium, Euglena, amoeba and some bacteria. Unicellular means they are made up of single cells, and multicellular means they are made up of many cells. Many scientists have tried their best to find out about the cell, out of which Robert Hooke was the first one to derive that cells are in the form of dead material in the bark of the tree, which were hexagonal in shape. Then slowly and steadily many other scientists came into being with their different proposals. Here you get to know about Leeuwenhoek, Sheldon, Schwann, Virchow and also Purkinje, who discovered the protoplasm, entire protoplasm, that is the entire matter of the cell. Leeuwenhoek gave us information regarding the living cells. Leeuwenhoek gave us the information regarding the living cells present in the ponds, especially in the ponds. Now, after this Leeuwenhoek, then came Sheldon, who noted that plants, animals are also made up of living cells. Means every plant or animal is considered to be made up of living cells. Then came Schwann, who also discovered the same thing, and he said, or he concluded, that all living things are made up of cells. Then Virchow proposed that all cells come from all other cells. That means there are some primitive cells, पुराने कुछ cells हैं जहाँ से actually ये नए cells बन रहे हैं. Means primitive cells are giving rise to the new cells. So these scientists had a great value for the study of science. Now, as I told you, multicellular organisms are having different types of cells. So they also perform a particular function. We call it as the division of labor. So all multicellular organisms, just like human beings here, there are many other multicellular organisms. When the zygote is formed after the fertilization process of the sperm and the ova, then from this zygote through cell division, meiosis and mitosis, we get different types of cells. These cells perform, or they are specialized in performing one particular function. For example, nerve cells. Nerve cells will only perform the function of taking and giving impulses or informations from one organ to the other. Similarly, blood cells will carry nutrients, wastes, oxygen to all parts of the body. So every cell had their own way of doing their work. This meant that they were doing division of labor. Now coming to the different types of solutions that can happen with the living cells, maybe it is of animal cell or plant cell. The different types of solutions are the hypotonic solution, the hypertonic solution, and the isotonic solution. If an animal cell is kept in a hypotonic solution, that means the amount of water is more in the cell, in the container. This is the amount of water, it is more in the container, and the cell is dried up, or it's a dry cell. Then the water from the container will move into the cell. This shows hypotonic solution. Here the two examples are given here, where you find the water is entering into the cell, one a plant cell, another an animal cell. On the other hand, in hypertonic solution, the cell has more water and the outside environment is having lesser amount of water, and in that case the water oozes out or comes out of the cell, whether it is a plant cell or an animal cell. In an isotonic solution, the cell will neither give out nutrients and water, or will it accept nutrients and water from the external environment. This is in case of this red blood cell, which is kept in a solution which is isotonic in nature. Now coming to the process which we call it as endocytosis or exocytosis. This happens to the cell membrane or the plasma membrane of the cell. We know that the cell membrane or the plasma membrane is selectively permeable. Selectively permeable means it allows the movement of some particular elements only inside and outside the cell. So this is selectively permeable membrane. When the nutrients or the food enters through this selectively permeable membrane inside the cell, we call it as endocytosis. And when there are some waste materials which are to be moved out of the cell through the semi-permeable membrane or the plasma membrane, that term is called as exocytosis. All the movements that are taking place inside and outside the cell is through one particular process which is termed as diffusion or osmosis, where the movement of the materials are from higher concentration to the lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. This movement can take place in case of gases, liquids that are passing through the cell membrane by these processes. Then coming to the type of cells, as you remember, Virchow said that some of the cells are actually formed from the other cells or the primitive cells. Here we get to know what are the primitive cells. Prokaryotic cells are also termed as primitive cells. Why? Because they do not have any membrane bound nucleus or organelles. Whereas these eukaryotic cells contain a proper nucleus with nuclear membrane, and organelles are also bounded by plasma membrane. This eukaryotic cell is a plant cell. Here you can see the different parts of the plant cell. Plant cell and animal cells are somewhat similar, with the presence of Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, cell membrane, ribosomes, nucleus, nucleolus, endoplasmic reticulum, and the cytoplasm. Some things which are different in the case of plant cell is they contain big vacuoles. Even the animal cells do contain vacuoles, but they are smaller and many in number. But in a plant cell, the vacuoles are many in number. And the main important work of the vacuole is to provide turgidity and rigidity to the cell. The basic structure of a plant cell depends on its cell wall, which is made up of cellulose, and it is the strongest and the hardest part of the plant cell. Now coming to the different organelles which perform various activities in the cell. Firstly, the nucleus. It's called the brain of the cell. It has all the genetic information with the presence of nucleolus in the center, chromosomes, chromatin fibers, DNA and the genes. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. The information from one generation to another generation is carried through this nucleus with the help of DNA. Then another important work which is done by this Golgi apparatus was discovered by the scientist Camillo Golgi. And this main function of this Golgi apparatus is to firstly produce or form lysosomes. It helps in packaging of the products in the vesicles. It also synthesizes near material synthesized near the ER is packed and dispatched to various targets inside and outside the cell. Then its function is basically to store, modify and package the products. It also in some cases the complex sugars may be made up into simple sugars by the Golgi apparatus. So Golgi apparatus has many specific functions to be performed. Endoplasmic reticulum, ER. This endoplasmic reticulum is a very important part because it contains the formation of, or it helps in membrane biogenesis. That is, if the cell membrane has any issues or it is not working properly, then this endoplasmic reticulum will mend the cell membrane with the help of proteins and lipids. Rough endoplasmic reticulum, we call it as RER, contains proteins from ribosomes, and SER, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, contains lipids. All these help in membrane biogenesis, that is the formation of cell membranes. Then comes the lysosomes. As just now I told, the Golgi apparatus produces the lysosomes. These lysosomes are also called as suicidal bags because they not only clean up the cells with their digestive enzymes, but they even burst open their own cells and digest it to clean the cell. The most important part that is done by this mitochondria is the formation of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, which is also called as the energy capsule for or energy currency of the cell. Every performance done by any organelle of the cell requires some energy. This energy is given in the form of ATP to them for performing the functions, and this is given by mitochondria. So mitochondria is also called the powerhouse of the cell. Then these organelles are all present in the plant cells, and the two basic things which are present in the plant cell in a good quantity are plastids and vacuoles. Plastids are basically mentioned in as the three main parts, that is the leucoplast, chloroplast and the chromoplast. All the colorful pigments present in the plants are conducted by or taken care of by the chromoplast. Green colored chlorophyll containing pigment which helps in photosynthesis is carried out by the process of chloroplast. Then leucoplast is that part of the plastid which has colorless or white colored liquid, especially the food content of the cell. This is how the plant cell is working, and I have already discussed about vacuoles and how they help in making the cell turgid and strong. A vacuole is a structure inside the cell that contains the cell sap or the fluid surrounded by a single membrane called the tonoplast. Now animal cell. This animal cell is also having all the information that we just now discussed for the cytoplasm. These organelles are all present and they do the work. They do all the work as all other organelles I just now discussed with you. Now coming to the last topic of this chapter is mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis means they are a part of cell division. There are two different types of cell division. The process of the cell division in which most of the cells divide for growth is called as mitosis. Here the growth is only taking place. Nothing else other than the growth of the cell is taking place is termed as mitosis. This takes part in somatic cells. Mitosis will always take part in somatic cells. Somatic cells are the cells which are not reproductive. They are only growing cells. And they have two diploid daughter cells. Diploid means there is a pair of chromosomes present here. Pair, you can see here, diploid. These are the two cells here, and they have a pair of chromosomes present here. That's why it is termed as a two diploid daughter cells. This is the parent cell, and from this parent cell two diploid daughter cells are formed, and the chromosome number remains the same. Here also you find there are two different chromosomes, and here also you find there are two different chromosomes. Now the next part is meiosis. Meiosis happens in germ cells or the reproductive cells, and it is a purpose of sexual reproduction. Here in this process, from the parent cell we find 4 haploid daughter cells. Haploid means the cells will contain only one chromosome part, not a pair. And this shows genetic variation and increased genetic variation due to meiosis. So this is all about the chapter, the fundamental unit of life, in a very small or a short information. I hope it will be beneficial for you. Thank you.